Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Cunningham. I'm the AVP of Alumni Relations at Lehigh, and we have a really neat webinar today for you during our virtual Rivalry Week. We have about 85 of you here on the call, and I expect a few more. So I just wanted to talk through a little bit of the choreography of today. We are recording, so if you do have to drop off early, you can always come back and rewatch the show. In order to ask questions, you'll use the chat function, which is at the bottom of your screen. Just click on that and you'll see the bubble pop up. You can either ask questions just to the all attendees or just to the panelists. Either way, I will read your questions aloud and direct them to our guests today. We will stop right at 1 o'clock. If you have any other questions, I'm sure that anyone here would be happy to answer them for you. So just send us an email after we are finished. So the way this is going to work, we're going to have Ilhan Chitak, if I said that correctly, from the Special Collections Archivist of Lehigh, give us a bit of a presentation, with Alex Jaffa, who's the Digital Archivist at Lehigh, and Rob will be on hand to answer some of your questions. He works specifically with athletics to organize, I think he said it was about 3,000 square feet of athletics, old athletics stuff. So I will stop talking and he'll hand it right over to Ilhan to get us started.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for Development and Alumni Association for inviting us to this, making us part of this great tradition of the Spirit Week. I'm Ilhan Chitak, Archives and Special Collection Librarian, and I'm here with our digital archivist, Alex Jaffa, and we are so proud to have Rob Kaufman, class of 1968, archivist at the Lehigh Athletics, as the guest of honor, as well as he's going to be our lifeline doing the question and answer. I will be very briefly talking about the history and mention some traditions, mostly pre and post-game activities, and Alex will demonstrate how to locate and access Lehigh history resources about the rivalry. In 2014, when Lehigh and Lafayette were getting ready for the 150th game, Lafayette College Special Collections Librarian Diane Schwab and I decided to co-present the versions of the history of the rivalry according to Lehigh and Lafayette, or Lafayette and Lehigh. So to talk about the details, I went to Lafayette College Library and met with the team. After a few moments, I thought something was wrong. They were referring to rivalry as Lafayette Lehigh, and I thought they were doing it on purpose, but actually that's how they refer it on the College Hill. Yes, it sounds like jelly and peanut butter, but it doesn't sound right. So when I came back to the campus, I went online and searched for the Lehigh Lafayette in quotes, got 22,700 hits. And I searched for Lafayette Lehigh in quotes, I got 21,600 hits. These numbers are just updated a few days ago, and Lehigh Lafayette without the quotes gets 6,440,000 hits. Lehigh Lafayette beats Lafayette, but go and test it on the virtual world. Lehigh always beats Lafayette. And when you are searching, make sure there's a Lafayette fan with you. It feels better that way. Rivalry is more than 150 years old, but more than 150 games have been played also. There are tons of statistics, traditions, and memories, and there is no way to cover them all. So today I will be mentioning only a few things to remember to beat the rivals. Number one, the highest score ever. Lehigh 78, Lafayette 0, and that still remains. Winner keeps the ball. Lafayette balls are kept in the Lafayette President's House. Lehigh balls are on display at the Athletics Hall of Fame. Yes, Lehigh has the highest score one. Pajama parade. Lehigh students dressed up in pajamas and walked from the new street bridge, which was called the Penny Bridge. You paid a penny to cross that night. And Lehigh students went to Moravian College dorms, and the Moravian College girls, so to speak, received them that night. One of the most creative open-air exhibit on campus, which became popular again recently, and this year, I believe, on the virtual world, on the social media, Lehigh won the game, and it's hopefully will be lively again next year. It took literally a village to scrap the wood for the bonfire as a pre-game activity. Southside vendors, shop owners, and neighbors all contributed. Both schools had aviation clubs, and they dropped propaganda and fake news leaflets to the rivals' campuses. This is a sample dropped from Lafayette in 1939, and we do not have a Lehigh sample, and hopefully if you have one, just please share with us. Tearing the goalpost was a after-game activity as a tradition. It was considered vandalism at one point, and even steel posts did not stop this tradition. In 1991, Bethlehem Police Department and Lehigh Police got involved, and it stopped. Taylor Gym Athletic Hall of Fame has memorial pieces, and I believe this one is from the Psi Epsilon, and we are definitely interested in collecting and getting any kind of memorabilia and document you have again. The first game was played in 1884, October 25. The second one was November 1884. Lafayette College won both. This is the ticket, this is the poster. We do have them in the collection, the originals. Richard Harding Davis, the most popular Lehigh 19th century student and early 20th century American pop culture figure, was played in 1884 both games, and he did the first touchdown, and that was against Lafayette. Taylor Stadium from 1914 to 1987 hosted all Lehigh home games. In 1995, the game was 30-30. It was the second overtime. The wide receiver, Brian Klingerman, caught the pass with one hand from the quarterback, Bob Aylesworth, and in the back end zone. Rivalry history calls this simply the catch. Wikipedia article refers rivalry played in the Yankee Stadium, 150th game, but Lehigh University played at Yankee Stadium against New York University in 1937. Lehigh lost this game. 150th game played in the new Yankee Stadium. Lehigh lost this game also. But again, remember what we said, not to losing. Remember the highest score, 78-0, and the game is called Lehigh-Lafayette, like the PBS. This 2004 documentary calls it. So thank you, and here are our contacts, and I will let now Alex Jaffa to show the resources.
Great, thanks, Ilhan. So pretty much everything that you just saw in Ilhan's slideshow is actually available online freely to view and download through our library digital repository resources. So just to start, I'll say this is the special collections page on the library website. This is the best place you can go to start your research journey. You can see under Lehigh history and digital projects, several different categories that you might be interested in. So the most common one that we use for searching is the Lehigh photograph collection. So that will bring you to this page. And then from here, you can just put whatever keyword you want into the search box. So just to demonstrate, I searched for bonfires, since Ilhan featured that in his presentation. You can see there are 42 results with the keyword bonfire. That can be either in the title or in the description of the picture. So you can see this image actually came from basically a scrapbook. You can see 11 shots on page, Lehigh-Lafayette bonfire, as well as Clarence the dog, who was the unofficial mascot of Lehigh University athletics there for a while. So you can see some of these images are what Ilhan used, but there are many, many more. And there's Clarence, our dog. Many, many more available for you to search and find. Also, he mentioned the pajama parade. There are 35 results featuring the word pajama. So you can see all of the different history behind that from various different years, mostly 50s, but it does, stretch back to the 40s as well. Further on, you can see if you just search Lehigh-Lafayette in all fields, we get 210 results. So now you're starting to see that there are hundreds of photos about the rivalry featuring Lehigh-Lafayette in some way. And here the years go from 1920 all the way to much more recent ones. That could be anything from just people viewing the game, people watching it. Here you can see an actual shot from the 1912 Lehigh-Lafayette game that Lehigh won 10-0. So that was a good year for Lehigh there. Further on, we also have a separate collection called athletics material. So you can see this collection is 284 items. It is primarily football programs. We tried to digitize all of the home programs that the library had access to, partly some from the athletics department, thanks to Rob Kaufman. And you can see these go, I think our earliest one is the early 20th century, and then our latest ones are all the way up through the 2018. We also have some scrapbooks here. So these were either donated to the athletics department or the library, or just kind of on loan. For example, Mike Reeker's football scrapbook. Some of you might know that name. Mike Reeker was the quarterback during Lehigh's championship winning season, I believe in 1977. So this was his, I believe actually his mother's personal scrapbook that she kept to document his gameplay that year. So it's mostly news clippings. So that's a pretty unique item to have. You can see here, these are Lafayette specific programs from games that we played at Lafayette. There are 51 of those. And then games that we played at Lehigh, home games. You can see this is a mixture, but we have about 54 going back to 1907 would be our earliest one. You can see it's not very decorated all the way through 2018, as you saw before, 2007, 11. And this has some fantastic artwork, as well as some really great statistical data and kind of Lehigh history in there as well. We also have Lehigh team photographs, so different athletics teams that played at Lehigh over the years. You can see they're organized by sport. So if you scroll down, you can get to football. So if you wanted to see the actual football team, what it looked like from 1884, that is what the football team looked like in 1884 when they first played Lafayette. I do love those uniforms. We also have the brown and white newspaper. So the newspaper has been entirely digitized and is searchable all the way back from its first issue to present. This one I picked just to show you. You can zoom in. You can see it's actually separated by individual articles, so you can read it article by article. This was the 1918 game immediately after the Spanish influenza. It almost canceled the Lehigh-Lafayette game, but that year they did end up playing, whether that was a good idea or not. And Lehigh won that year also, 17-0. So this is the homepage for the brown and white. Again, just a search box, or you can search by a date or tag. And then lastly, Ilhan showed a student publication. So all of the student publications that Lehigh had from, you can see 1873 through the 1970s are available here. So if you wanted to see that Lehigh Burr that Ilhan showed you, you can just follow that link, and those are on the Internet Archive. So you can find all of those student publications there alongside our Epitome yearbooks, course catalogs, and other digital resources. So with that, I think I will open us up to questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex and Ilhan. We are getting some questions in the chat, so I will read those aloud to you. My first question, you had mentioned that you would like to get any artifacts that people have. Can one of you describe exactly how people should get that material to you? I get calls a lot from people whose say their parents have died and they're going through all their old stuff and they say they found a heap of Lehigh stuff. So what do we do when we find things that might be interesting for you?
Well,
Anything and everything. Oh, okay, go ahead, Rob, please.
Well, I was going to say, we have our email addresses and we share resources. So whether you email me or email Ilhan or Alex, once we receive it, we'll see that it gets to the proper house. In general, the library keeps the more delicate, much older stuff, while I have more contemporary stuff and stuff that isn't quite as fragile.
So people can either email the alumni office or one of you, and we'll figure out whether they bring it to campus or mail it to campus or however it gets. But you do want to see, you'd rather get it, make a decision whether it's worth keeping or who gets it, than not have it at all.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's anything telling story of Lehigh history, Lehigh student life, campus life, any kind of activity on or off campus is a big interest for us, and public history classes, as well as many other Lehigh anniversaries. Now we are getting into almost 50th anniversary of Lehigh undergraduate women co-education. Any kind of interesting historical newspaper clippings we are interested in, and if we are not, we are very honest with you. We tell you, please don't send.
Okay, great. So a couple people are interested in purchasing, like Jim is interested in purchasing the posters, like maybe selling copies as a fundraising activity, or the program covers. How can people get access to those?
I think we are not in that business, number one, but the Alumni Association and Lehigh Printing Services and Business Services are interested in making these available for fundraising activities. That is, I refer Jennifer to contact Lois Black. However, Alex can demonstrate for personal usage, for Lehigh activities, or any kind of educational, not money-making, versions, but you can download and you can use them. Alex, maybe you can.
Yeah, sure. So just as a quick example, so everything you saw online in my presentation is available to download for free. That being said, there are always copyright questions. So if you're going to be reselling that, you're going to need the permission from Lehigh. But if you just want a personal, a poster to hang on your wall, here, I'll share my screen again. So this is the view once you actually click in on an item, right? You can see, and there's a download button right up here. Here, I'll just draw download right there. If you click that, it gives you some options for different sizing. So if you click full size, you get the high resolution scan that we took. All of our scans are archival preservation quality, so very high. If you want to download the entire program as a single file, you could also do all PDF, and that would allow you to download the whole program in a single file. So if you click full size there, you can see it's going to bring up a download screen. So that is available for all of our photographs, and yes, you can see frontcover.jpg. So that is available for all of our digitized material. And yeah, there are high enough quality that you should be able to make good reproductions.
And I would say, while we would never sell them, if you do appreciate and you do hang one of these, consider a gift to the Lehigh Fund or to the Special Collections Department as an appreciation. All right, some other questions we have here. Dave is asking, if I remember correctly, weren't the goalposts torn down during the game one year? And if so, did they finish the game?
Yes, they, as I recall, there was an extra point or a field goal and they had to go to the other end of the field to perform it. And I saw someone asked about something else with tearing down the goalposts, and they used to be made of wood. And then there was a game, I forget, 70s, where there was a really major brawl. And some people kind of got dinged up. And that's when they switched to the metal goalposts that were pretty much impossible to tear down.
It was 1978 at Lafayette, says Peter.
Okay.
Steve asks, do I remember correctly that back in the 60s, there was a competition among the fraternities for rivalry decorations?
Yes, at that time we had 31 fraternities on campus. So decorating for Lafayette weekend was a major deal. And there was a competition. And you saw bed sheets everywhere on campus, in addition to the fraternities.
Is that when the bed sheets started?
I'm not sure when they started. When I got to campus in '64, there were bed sheets. So
Already,
I'm not
yes.
sure. There were bed sheets already appearing for House Party and Lafayette.
Tom is saying there would be a ring of police around the goalposts near the end of the game.
I believe last one, Rob probably had seen it with Peter Likens and Bethlehem Police Department and Lehigh Police literally defended the posts, and then that's when it stopped, as far as I know. But we can check that. We can maybe create a little social media post or something about that. The last one, how it ended.
And just to add, we do have some photographs of those fraternity decorations. They also did dorms as well. It wasn't exclusive to fraternities.
Right.
And some of them are pretty funny. I especially like the one of the test machine squeezing Lafayette. Good use of engineering and Lehigh machinery there.
President Simon, I guess, also participates, as far as I know. I think this year he put something also again, but last year was Lafayette president uses Microsoft Internet Explorer or something like that.
Yeah, one year it was Lafayette's president is still on Friendster. Steve says, I think back in '69, volunteers gave out cookies to promote peace near the end of the game. And Barry, in 1987, Jill says, I was at the '87 game, the last one in Taylor Stadium. I remember it being very cold. Do we know when the coldest game was? I remember my beer freezing before I could finish it.
That was the game. It's the coldest I've ever been in my life. Not only that, but Taylor Stadium, the seats were concrete. There weren't individual seats. So you can imagine in a really cold day how cold concrete got compared to a plastic seat. So it sticks in my mind as the coldest I've ever been in my life.
I think there is a photograph in our photo collection. I don't know if we can pull that, but people are with blankets. I don't know how we catalog that photograph, but definitely people sit with the blankets and everything also. Today wasn't a bad day also. Today
a few other people were saying that they were at the game too. The Taylor Stadium, is it true that they just, to make what's there now, are the seats still there in the side of the hill?
I think there are some remnants of it that they left. I don't know if they're the exact seats or you can see where it was terraced. Yep.
Between cool. Centennial, behind the Centennial Walkway and the Roush Business Center and Taylor Stadium, that's Tannerler Court area. When you look at toward the south there, it looks like it between
Yeah.
We do actually have photos of the demolition of the stadium, and it does look like that they really did demolish most of those concrete bleachers there. There's lots of heavy machinery being used to completely demolish it. So
Rich Haas and Joe Ganal are saying it's the south bleachers, the top row, and the archway remain.
Right.
Are the TV broadcasts of the Lehigh-Lafayette available for viewing anywhere? Do we know?
Rob has some archival films and videos in his collection. We do not have all the films, and more recent films have some sort of copyright issues. I see a YouTube channel has some game clips and everything, but Rob, maybe I'm not really sure if you can answer that question.
Well, a lot the film that we have on older games, the 60s and even the 70s, the games weren't televised. So the film we have is sort of coach's film, basically don't have sound. So they're a little bit rough. It's not like sitting down and watching a TV2 telecast today. The other interesting point, I moved to California in 1970, and the way that we shared in the game was Bethlehem Steel loaned Lehigh the use of their 800 watts lines, and the radio broadcast went over the telephone. And I remember my first visit in someone's house, and they had speaker phones all around the house, for those of you that could remember that. And that's how we heard the game. No visuals, only audio, and a lot of drinking, and a lot of times you couldn't hear it so well. But that's how we participated when we were far away.
Nice. Peter, we were actually just talking about Steckbeck before we started this, but Peter said, I just want to remember and thank John Steckbeck for his annual welcome of Lehigh freshmen and introduction to Lehigh athletics and the Lehigh-Lafayette rivalry.
He was.
Steckbeck wrote a really great book on the amazing Indian man, about Carlisle Indian School, where he talks about Jim Thorpe, which is a great American, Native American sportsman, which
Jim Thorpe
against Lehigh too.
Yeah, Jim Thorpe, right.
Steckbeck was the organizer of the bonfire. And in those days, what now we see as the parking lot behind Taylor Gym was Upper Taylor Field. And that's where the bonfire was. And starting Wednesday night, I think, freshman sections were accorded a time slot to guard the bonfire. And Steckbeck always managed in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they'd sound the bell, and it was everyone's job to come rushing out of the dorms to protect the bonfire.
Nice.
And that was all Steckbeck.
We've only got a couple minutes or a couple seconds left here. It's actually already 1 o'clock. But there's a lot of great chatter here. 2 things I do want to mention is athletics is re-showing the 2017 game on Facebook Live and encouraging fans to tailgate at home and watch the game. And then we are also doing it's a New Jersey happy hour, but everyone is welcome. It's sponsored by the Lehigh Club of New Jersey with Marty Horn, class of '86. Famous Lehigh football player. So we will send out the registration link for that and some of the other links that we talked about today, so everyone can go back and check all of this stuff out. So I want to thank all of our panelists again. If anybody has additional questions or things you want to share, you can send that to me, and I will get them to the panelists, and we will answer your questions. And I'm so glad you could all join us. Sounds like there's a lot of enthusiasm for the rivalry, and I'm happy that you all took the time today. So,
yeah, Go campaign is on. Don't forget.
Excellent. All right, go Lehigh.
Thank you, everybody.